I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in. Okay, welcome back everyone to another episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. And a special welcome to my guest today, Todd Sarner. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
All the way from America. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I want to introduce you a little bit to the parents listening. I love the way you are described as somebody whose work centers on helping parents lead their families without losing connection. And you talk about calm and confident leadership, teaching that balance between structure and boundaries, but also with empathy and how those two things can go together. You have a book that you've just released, The Calm and Connected Parents, an attachment first guide to raising resilient kids in the age of screens and AI.
It's a long subtitle.
Yeah, but that's the bit I like. So because it really gives a clear idea about, calm and connected. I think that's what we're going for. But it helps break it down to say we're trying to raise resilient kids, but through focusing on the attachment first. And that's often that attachment is what it's in, that's what creates the friction between things like screens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we have
that's,
all sorts of stuff we can talk about with that. I know we're going to have a good conversation. I've listened to your show, and I think we're of like minds on a lot of things.
yeah, I really felt that when I was reading your book and how you explain things for a number of reasons that we'll get into. Um, and yeah, but first, just wanted to say thank you for joining me from all the way overseas. It's probably at the end of the day there, is that right?
Yeah, it's more towards the end of the workday here, but it's great. I have something on my schedule that's like at 8 p.m.
Hmm.
Sometime in the next few weeks, and that's a little later. But no, this is great, and I guess it's early there.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of mid-morning, but I find that really interesting that it's, when you're at the beginning of your day and you're talking to someone who's at the end of their day, sometimes I notice myself at the end of the day, I'm kind of starting to
Yeah,
wind down a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
But also before we started recording, we noticed that there's a little bit of a lag, and so there was a little bit of talking over each other, but which is what I do anyway. So just a warning to listeners that it might be worse today.
I might be prone to that myself, but it's just like a little fraction of a second. But we'll just practice our mindful pauses here and there, and I'll try not to talk over you too much.
Yeah, no, it's for me, it was mostly just letting listeners know that you are not one of those interrupters. It's just the delay.
Maybe not. No,
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like to say I get enthusiastic. So
Yeah, yeah. I can tell, and I'm excited about our conversation too, because and I thought what that some things to focus on today might be um first of all, a little bit of talk about focusing on attachment and that connection with our kids, because I think that can then, that sets the groundwork for then thinking about how we approach things like screens. But also, you mentioned siblings in the book as well, which I thought was interesting because that's something that parents often talk to me about as well. That
it's one of
sibling
the
dynamics.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of the main things that comes up.
yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, I named the book the subtitle there, the oh so long subtitle, an attachment first guide, because for a long time I've tried to figure out how do I distinguish some things about the approach I take Not that they're different from everyone, but different than what I'm seeing out there for the most part. And how do I
Mm,
talk about it? Because everything I do is based in attachment science. And attachment science is not that controversial among psychologists and
mm,
psychotherapists and helping professionals. It's taught at all the universities. It's not that controversial, but when you look at parenting blogs or social media videos, sometimes it's sometimes referred to or in ways that don't really have a lot of they don't really relate to the actual science. And
mm,
so attachment first to me is just saying, look, the number one most important thing to all of us, whether it's in the context of parent-child relationship, and the number one thing that's important to us in our adult relationships, in our primary adult relationships, like our close friendships and our love relationships. And that's the two things I do. I kind of do parent coaching over here, and then I
mhm,
do marriage counseling for parents
mm,
only over there. Is the most important thing to us is how secure we feel in the bond between us, right?
yeah,
So, like a couples counselor um, could just sit there and do symptom management of all the different things that people come in to us with about we're not, communicating. She doesn't understand me. Our intimacy is not where we want it to be.
mhm,
I feel like we're always fighting about this and that. Or you could go to what's underneath those battles and those symptoms usually, which is we don't feel on the same page. I don't feel
mm,
secure in our relationship right now. I felt at some point like you and I were a team, that you understood me, that I understood you, that we gave each other the benefit of the doubt. And when we
mhm,
had that, that felt really good. But I don't feel
mm,
that right now. And because I don't feel that right now, we're having all these problems. So we could address the whole list of the symptoms, and we do
mhm,
sometimes because people want to, but also we go, but let's get to that bond, and let's get to why you don't feel heard by each other, why you don't feel understood,
mm,
right? So that's all in the marriage realm, right? But when raising a child, there's so many things we have to think about, right? I mean, it could seem like there's 1,000 things that are a concern right now: kids not listening or cooperating, sibling rivalry, aggression issues, issues to do with sensitivity and connection. And there's so many things. And there's so many things we could be worried about in the future and have anxiety
mhm,
about. Like, is my kid developing the things inside that they need to succeed in this world? Do they have, the resilience inside? Do they have the ability to think freely for themselves? Do they have creativity, and can they, be a self-starter and take initiative in life? And we could worry about all those things. Attachment science just says, look, the key to all of those things is that your children have a secure bond and a reliable relationship with their primary caregivers. And that
mm,
that is not as simple as I'm a good dad, you're a good mom, we're trying. Like, it's a long journey, going
yeah,
from I'm born incredibly insecure, I don't even know you're coming back in the room, mom. I don't have object permanence. I don't understand that when I don't see you, you're still there. It
mhm,
goes from that to hopefully I go off to uni or I go off into the world and I'm not done. I'm not a complete realized being, but
mm,
I generally have an internalized sense of I'm a good person. I want to bring good people into my life. I'm worthy, and I have skills and tools that I need that I can put together to kind of get through life. And I'll still make mistakes and I'll still have things to learn, but that's a long journey. So,
yeah,
attachment first, it's a very long answer, but attachment first is just my way of saying that is what has to come first. We have to put our attention first on getting connected, building a culture around our children that helps them feel connected more often. So the weight's not all on us to do that, like, 24/7, that
Yep.
we help them to learn to internalize connection when they're not with us. But at the risk of taking up the rest of the show with one more part of my answer, I'm just trying to like set things up, a little bit. Is what I see, and I know you know this, is when you look in popular culture and you look on Instagram and you look on the blogs and you look on TikTok, even though I just barely dipped my toe in TikTok, I've been kind of resistant to it, is the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth between all the content and everything is about gentle parenting for a while. But people don't always make clear that being gentle and kind is wonderful, but it's not the whole thing. Right. And so then people don't get results and their kids aren't listening and they're getting frustrated. And so they go to the other side of the pendulum, which right now is this F around and find out parenting and stuff like that, where it's like harsh, let kids experience the ramifications and go hungry and get cold and, which is alarming and traumatic potentially. And it's, and so when exactly. So when I say attachment first, it's those two things. It's saying, one, relationships come first and building a culture around our children comes first. But we also have to balance it out with teaching them cause and effect about behavior and action. That's not punishment. It's just what we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to teach you that we do this before we do that. And I'm supposed to be clear and consistent and follow through. And I don't need to yell at you. I just need to teach you that for your benefit, not only for your behavior today, but so you go off into the world as somebody who knows you kind of have to do your work or you get fired, or you kind of have to be reliable in relationship or you're going to lose it. Right. But then also people get frustrated and we have emotions we don't want to feel. And so part of my job as a parent is to deal with those myself and me. But as far as a parent goes, I need to help you feel your feelings and process them and work through them. And what that takes is firm but loving limits that are, again, not punishment, but they are saying no to you when I need to say no to you and making sure I love you while I'm saying no. All of these things is like more of a balanced middle path of parenting that just makes tons of sense to me. I know it makes sense to you. And unfortunately, a lot of parents aren't being taught this at all. They're being taught the extreme. So what do you think, Leanne? Are we out of time? Are we...
No, we are just getting started.
Okay, good.
But I think I was going to say, I think it's really worth giving a long answer because I completely agree with you. Part one of the book, you talk about attachment and connection and talk about it as the compass points to you, which I think is a great description. That's the very too long didn't read version of the answer that you just gave, I think. But it really, for me, what I notice a lot of times, and maybe it's parents who've tried something on one side of the pendulum or the other, that's often when it doesn't work and parents are frustrated, they're out of ideas, and it's because that foundational stuff, like that strong bond with the kids, is what is missing, or not going particularly well. So I think it's really a good thing to spend a lot of time talking about why we have that as the base for everything else.
I find I don't know about you. You seem like you're a human. I'm a human. We're all imperfect. Joking, sorry. But I'm not above what I'm about to talk about here, but I find that we all assume connection too much. We all kind of just assume I'm trying my best. I'm giving my all to my kids. Therefore, we're good, right? I find I was just talking to a guy friend of mine about his personal relationship, and I'm not trying to pick on men here because sometimes I'll make a a little reference like this, and it sounds like I'm going, God, us guys are sure dumb sometimes about emotions, but that's not where I'm coming from. But I find a lot of men get into a relationship. Let's just say a heterosexual guy gets into a relationship with a woman, and a lot of guys have the attitude of, okay, got her, we're good.
Yep.
And he doesn't have
She knows I love her.
he doesn't have ill will. He's not a bad
Yeah.
person. He just has
Yep.
more of a static idea sometimes of, I got her, we're good. We're together, where relationship, that's not relationship. Relationship is an ongoing thing. It's a verb. It's a living thing, right? And even if you're the best parent you can be and you're trying your best,
Mm.
your kid doesn't always feel connected to you. And if you
Mhm.
walk in the room and you just try to start telling them what to do, you're gonna get resistance
Mm.
because they're actually wired to not listen to people who they're not connected to in the moment. That is a
Mm.
human thing. I guarantee you it applies to you, listener. It applies to you. Somebody walks up to you and just starts telling you what to do, whether it's your
Mm.
husband or your boss, and they don't take a minute to just, hey, how are you? How have you been?
Yeah.
Now, if you're at work, we can't be doing that all day in a big extended way. But in general, people know that when we have a work meeting, we say hi first. We talk about rugby. We talk about,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were just watching a rugby match the other day, and you and I talked about rugby beforehand. My fiance and I are big rugby fans, but you take a minute to connect. People do that
Yeah.
everywhere in the world. You know,
Yep.
people famously know that in France, that if you just walked into a bakery and you just went, "Give me some bread," you're going to get
Yeah.
some attitude. You
Yeah.
know, you're supposed to say, "Bonjour, mademoiselle, comment ça va?" You're supposed to take a minute to be civilized and let's
Yeah.
connect. But my
Yeah.
main point is, in marriage and in parenting, we all tend to be busy and have a lot of
Mm.
things on our mind, and we kind of just assume we're good. And
Mm.
sure, maybe you're good, but you can't just assume connection. You have to get into connection. It's an active thing.
Yep. That's right. And it evolves over time as well and shifts and changes. And as I
Yes.
was reading the book, I was reflecting on, yeah, so I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that I learned things from the book or took things where I was like, how do I do that with this kid versus that kid? So I think, yeah, I
That's
definitely am human and make mistakes.
I'm so happy to hear that because I know you have a lot of experience. And yeah, that's what I was hoping for, is that people would think, and they would think about, oh, how does this apply? Because one thing I'm really, really frustrated by sometimes is one size fits all solutions,
Yeah. Yep.
or piecemeal, like, do this one thing, or do this for all kids, right? Anybody who has
Yep.
3 kids knows they're all completely different. And you
Yeah.
can't just
That's right.
apply one thing to all kids. But if you know the core concepts underneath, like, hey, this kid takes a minute to get connected with, it takes a few minutes. I have to be
Yeah.
in their space a little bit first, but then I get that light on. Okay.
Yep.
This one is a lot easier with that. Most days,
Mm.
I can just kind of like, hey, how you doing? And that one lights up and we're good, right? But I also don't want to take advantage of that. I don't want to assume that we're always
Yep.
good, right? Like that one kid who doesn't get paid attention to, right? Okay, right now you're easier to get, but I also know you have needs. You're not the loudest kid here, you're not the most sensitive kid here, but I don't want
Yep.
to assume your deeper needs are being met. So if you get
Mm.
the underlying principles, you know what to do. But one
Yes.
size fits all things that just make you feel like you can just do this one thing with the highly sensitive kid and this other kid doesn't work. And then you feel bad about yourself because this parenting expert told you it works and it
Yeah.
didn't, for your
Yep.
kid.
Yeah. You think you're not doing it right. And so in the book, what I think is really great at the end of each part, you talk about noticing your pattern as a parent and then connecting to your why or your value about that particular issue and then make one shift, which I think is a really great because non one size fits all doesn't work. I work with a lot of primarily parents of neurodivergent kids, and that's the primary problem, is that the one size fits all thing doesn't work. But this is not yeah, it's more about a guide of these are the ideas, get the main principles and then think about it.
Yeah.
And so for me with my kid, it was thinking about um, the mismatch is, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but sometimes like, well, maybe it is a mismatch. And so it's probably a common example too, where I work at home a bit. And so I'm trying to get things done. And then my kid will come into that space to be like, hey, can you? And and I think you didn't talk to me before. Like after school, I tried to chat to you, weren't interested. But
How old's yours?
that's when this one is 13. Yeah.
Okay.
So seeking that out at that time, and so it's made me think, actually, that's and it's really important for me to notice that as a, um, I'm trying to think of the non-psychology word. All I can think of is bid for attention, but it's like
Right.
it's
Gottman.
starting something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
and
attachment language, they often talk about signal and response, and then Gottman,
right.
as you know, uses bid for connection. I think people get that, like we all put out bids for connection, and some of them are obvious and some of them are not obvious. They're like, you don't love me, still a bid for
Yeah,
connection.
that's right. And so it's just understanding those different signals that each kid gives, and then for me, it was thinking, okay, I've got to, how can I be more tuned into that signal? Um, Yeah,
And
and
is
making
that
sure
your
that I'm
is that your oldest?
no, he's the middle one.
Okay,
Yeah,
because you might know then, one of the craziest things along those lines with parents of adolescents is they won't talk to you all day, and then they'll come to you at 10 o'clock at night when you're about to go to sleep or something, and it'll be, Mom, can I talk to you? And you're just
yep,
like, honey, I'm really tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Sure. And then what happens? You
yeah,
go to
yeah,
talk to
that's
them
it, you're
tomorrow
done.
and the walls back up, right?
Yep,
But
yep,
they're just dealing with so much, like all the hormones going on and the social pressures and the peer pressure and everything. And so just to
yep,
get through their day, sometimes they just kind of have to wall off a little bit to defend themselves. And so right before bed, that wall comes down, and
yep,
then they want to connect. And I tell all my I worked with teenagers for years. My son is 22 now, so he's up
mhm.
and out. And but I just always tell parents, take advantage of that moment. Don't take it personally. Just take advantage of that moment and talk, because that might be your only chance this week.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think too what's helped me is thinking about how, the brains are all different at different ages, and the teenage brain is kinda concerned about the teenager, not so much he's not thinking, "Oh, I bet mum wants to get to bed early, she's got that thing in the morning." It's just thinking about them, and that's only because they haven't, they're still developing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get quite excited at that time. I'm like, "You wanna chat? You wanna hang
Let's
out?
talk. Let's
Okay."
talk.
But I have to try and temper it, like, yeah, don't be too
Exactly.
much
Exactly.
because I
Oh,
will put you
okay.
off.
I suppose that's all right. Yes.
Yeah. No, I guess so, yeah. It's
Let's
playing it
converse.
quite cool. Yeah, exactly. But also so then I think that leads into too nicely the conversation about siblings as well, because, I like how you related that to, our attention for our kids and our connection with them is often what they might be, fighting over. And you had this line which just says that kids fight over what's scarce. So if they feel like our attention and time with our kids is limited, it feels like a finite resource that they want to grab. Um,
Yeah,
and so yeah.
my original understanding of this came really directly from Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who mentored me early on, when my son was about 1 years
Mhm.
old, and I was in his first intern group of therapists and psychologists, and then I was lucky enough to serve on his faculty for a while up there in Vancouver, BC, of the Neufeld Institute. So I want to always give him credit for, it's not that I didn't understand some of these things coming out of grad school and some of
Mm.
my experience, but he just had a way of crystallizing some things. Usually the sibling dynamics are due to two different things. And sometimes it's both, and sometimes it's one of them. But understanding both of them help us kind of discern what's happening in the particular
Yeah.
situation.
Yep.
So one of them, and then I'll loop back to what you're mentioning from the book, is one of them is no one's in the alpha position, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a typical, and so the way that we use alpha is, again, directly from Neufeld and my original training with him, is that alpha is not about being a dictator. Sometimes in
Mm.
popular culture, it's like he's an alpha man, and so he's in the CEO chair and he's doing, maybe, but sometimes a lot of overcompensating there. Alpha to me, when it comes to parent, is being a papa bear, being a mama bear, that you're loving and you're kind, but you're in charge and you're
Mm.
driving the car. And you're driving the car not because you're better than them. You're driving the car because you're older and you know how to drive the car. They need to be in the back seat, able to play and explore and contemplate and grow. And it's not their
Yeah.
job to drive right now. So it's more that vibe, right?
Yes.
But I can relate this particular dynamic with two different things. One, the book and the movie Lord of the Flies. Kids
Mm-hmm.
that are getting along, probably they're going to boarding school, they have parents in charge, they're probably just kids being kids. But you
Yeah.
take the adults out of the situation, and what happens is they start tribalizing,
Yeah.
because out of insecurity, right?
Mm.
So then they start fighting and things happen because the leadership's not there, and because of that vacuum they start tribalizing out of anxiety and insecurity, right? So the typical thing you could see with kids is like, I could say you could take the teacher out of a kindergarten classroom and within 20
Mm.
minutes that's going to happen. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not the awful things that happened in Lord of the Flies, but
Yeah.
one little girl is going to start acting like the teacher. And
Yeah.
one little boy is going to start saying,
You
"Hey,
can't tell me what to do.
let's get into some mischief now." And they
Right.
can't,
Right. Yes.
right? And he'll start leading
So
some of the
true.
other boys, right? And it's not because they're natural leaders who are really
Yeah.
mature. It's because they don't feel secure in the leadership not being there, right? So the
Yeah.
typical thing that happens for parents is their kids are getting along great. And they're like,
Mm.
I'm such a great parent and we have everything so great. And look at my kids getting along. I'm going to go do some stuff. I'm going to go get on my
Yeah.
phone. I'm going to start doing something. And that's all fine, guys. I'm not judging. I'm just saying this is just life, right? But then for lack of feeling your leadership for a little while, the younger they are, the shorter
Yeah.
that is. I find it's often
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes. For not feeling your leadership, one of them starts telling the other one what to do. They start acting
Mm.
like a little boss. And then the other one's like, hell no, I'm not doing that. You're not the boss of me. And then they fight. That's
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the main reasons for sibling rivalry. And
Mm.
again, the
Mm-hmm.
message is not, I just said you're failing and you're not good enough parent because your kids were just fighting yesterday. I'm just saying be aware of this. And the younger they are, you just come in and you do a drive-by every once in a while. You come in and you make your
Yeah.
presence known. You get one of them doing something with you. Oh, hey, you guys are still playing nicely. That's so wonderful. How are you doing, Bobby? How are you doing, Susie? Bobby, can you come help me with dinner in like 5 minutes? Great. And just a few seconds of that, them becoming aware of your presence, you just hit the reset button on the timer. I'm
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
a little simply, but it's true. I've had thousands of clients. It's true. It's exactly
Yeah.
how it goes. And then the other thing that you're referring to, and these are important things, siblings, no siblings, these are important concepts anyway, is children tend to not be able to discern between love and time sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have this idea, especially around 3.5, 4.5, when they start to really want to feel special. If they see anyone else getting that specialness that they want, they have like a zero-sum game attitude about it, that like, you're getting it, that means I'm not getting it. I'm going to go after the competition.
Mm-hmm.
My son didn't have siblings, and at that age, he wouldn't let his mother and I talk to each other sometimes, because it was like we were competition, like, it was competition
Yeah.
that he wanted to eliminate, right? Which is natural. But that's what's happening again sometimes with kids. They want to feel special. And so the way that we do that is, we don't wait until stuff's hitting the fan and our kids are fighting to go, you know what? Let me tell you both how special you are. It's not going to work
Mm-hmm.
right then. It's too
No.
late. It's more
Yeah.
like a proactive attitude about, I'm going to make sure, I hate to use words like algorithm, but there's a rhythm and an algorithm to, let's make sure I'm watering this plant, that I'm letting
Yeah.
Bobby know why he's special to me. Not some generic
Yeah.
thing, you're the most special kid in the world just because, but I'm talking to Bobby about how he colors with such passion, about how
Yeah.
much he loves digging in the my kid used to love digging holes in the garden when he was like 4 or 5 years old. He would just dig holes and he loved it, Man, you
Yeah.
can dig a hole. And it was never about the outcome. It was about the quality of the child that was unique. And you're not saying,
Yeah.
I love you more than your sister, because they don't
Mm.
believe you and they know that's not right. But when you tell them, man, when you color, you just give it your all. And when you're out there on the baseball field, you're such a great teammate. They know when you say that, it's true. They know
Yeah.
it's true about themselves, and it's special because of that. And they kind of get, my sister, that's not her thing. Doesn't make her
Yeah.
lesser. It's just not her thing. This is my thing. And
Yeah.
that's, again,
And
another
they
long
like it.
answer. Yeah. Is the
Mm.
alpha idea is one of the main principles of everything I teach. If I told you beforehand, I don't like plugging in books and making commercials, but I'm going to be that guy who drops in the book, right? It
Mm.
was like
I've
one
said
of
it
the
about 3 times, so
Thank
go
you.
for
But
it.
one of the main things I was going for was not another list of instructions. It was
Yeah.
kind of going to what Neufeld said to me early on that made such an impact on me as a new parent. Was he said, parenting is more about who you are than what you do.
Mm. Mhm.
And that is a deep thing that you could go, okay, great, Todd, now what's the next? No, really take that in. Who do you want to be to your child? What's your job? I would argue your job is not to be a dictator, and your job's not to be a pushover, and your job's not just
Yeah.
to be gentle. Your job is not to make them happy all day. Although we
Mm.
want our kids to be happy, your job is to be that papa bear. Your job is to be that
Mm.
mama bear. And that's who you
Yeah.
need to be. And if you understand that, the what to do's kind of make more sense, right?
Yeah. That's
And
right.
s and so that's what I try to do when I'm talking or I'm writing something or I'm coaching people. It's like, let's help you understand who you need to be, because then everything else I tell you is not some random thing that, is like whack-a-mole parenting, I call it. Like, let's run over here and find this solution, and let's run over here and find this solution.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it's all part of this alpha idea.
Mm. And I think then it gives parents the freedom to, or, I'm saying it like I'm not one, but us as parents then to to choose as well, because there's often not one single correct strategy for things.
No.
Like, for example, with screens, how to deal with it. The hard and fast rules don't really work. But if you understand the principles and think about who you want to be, how you want to be as a parent, then you can decide that based on your values and what your kids need and a whole lot of other things. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of confidence comes from that too, knowing that it's about who you want to be and how you want to parent, and then from there.
absolutely. There's a
Mm.
few other things we could talk about that, about how it fits in with connection, how it fits in with maturity and development of skills. But just linking the point you're making here, which is a great one, to what we were just talking about. I don't know about you, because I think I understand Australian culture. I have so many friends down there, and I also feel like sometimes some of the bad habits and things we have up here in America kind of trickle down there sometimes through popular
Yeah.
culture. Sorry.
Mhm.
But I'm here officially on behalf of the United States to apologize. And I'm sure you have clientele elsewhere, but one of the main things, I've had 2,300 or 2,400 parenting clients since 2004.
Mm.
A lot
Mhm.
of, and that's not even workshops and webinars and in-person classes and parenting talks that I used to drive 2 hours to speak to 7 parents at a La Leche League nursing, group, but one of the main questions I've got, and I don't know if you have, is my kid's totally hooked on screens. How do I stop it? You know?
Yeah. Yep.
And
Definitely.
that question has been going on for so long. And I try not to be a smarty about it and sound, like, hey, it's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Second best time is now.
Yeah.
It's best that you don't let Pandora out of the box in the first place. But we'll get more into that because I don't want it to sound like an anti-technology thing that I'm saying, because that's not exactly what I'm saying. But related to alpha, I hear from parents all the time the same thing. My kids are totally hooked on screens, but everyone else is doing it, so I don't know what I can do.
Yes.
All their friends have an iPhone. All of their friends are on TikTok. All of their friends, so what am I supposed to do, right? And
Mm.
I am totally willing to get into that discussion with you or any parent in a non-judgmental way that's not meant to make anybody feel bad. But like, let's just begin from, you're the parent. And
Mm.
like you just said, Leanne, like, if you don't want your kids to be on TikTok, your kids don't need to be on TikTok. They just don't.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
Period. Now, if you think it's okay, okay. Let's talk about the developmental aspects of how it might affect things and what you should look for. But my attitude is, my kid went to a school, and again, this is not trying to be superior, guys, but one of the reasons we kind of went out of our way and moved to where I live now in Sonoma County, California, is there is this amazing school that is a Waldorf school, and it doesn't have to be a Waldorf school, but it's a real destination school, Summerfield
Mhm.
Waldorf School and Farm. I'll name drop. But my kids' class had a policy until 8th grade. We don't do screens. And we had
Yeah.
a meeting every single year at the beginning of the year. Are we all still okay with this? Are we okay with, they can have them later, but right now, let's let them play. Let's let them be
Mm.
outside. Let's let them be
Mhm.
creative. Let's let them develop their minds a little bit more. And then we can introduce them as we feel are in alignment with our values. But let's just
Mm.
kind of like not assume it's a foregone thing. And it was so valuable to me as a parent to know I could send my kids to your kid's house and
Yeah.
they weren't going to be on social media the whole time, you know?
Mm. Mhm.
And guess how much my kid complained about that? 0.
None? Yeah.
0. He did not
Yeah.
complain about it. Now, I'm aware that we don't always all have that opportunity, but I have also found that if you find a cohort of just a few
Mm.
families, I
Mhm.
guarantee you they are out there and they're thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And you just find a cohort of families that you make that agreement. Hey, let's just minimize it for now, right?
Mm.
But that's all to the alpha thing, is you make a choice and I'll respect you as a parent for the choice you make. But let's keep the developmental aspects of it in mind. Is it affecting their connection to me, to humans? Is it keeping
Yeah.
them from developing some skills? But if I think that's okay, you think that's okay? Okay, but let's not give over our power to culture, you know, because it's not
Yeah.
working. It's not. Do you know Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation? It's really
Yeah,
popular last
up
year.
there too.
The
Yeah.
the statistics are crazy. Yeah, I have it back here. The statistics are crazy of the last 10 years of the rates of anxiety and depression and self-harm, and completely linked to kind of widespread adoption of smartphones and social media. Went off on a
Mm.
tangent there, but I
No,
think
I
it's an
think
important thing to talk about.
I agree, and I think, and it's such a common question for me as well over here in Australia, and I think I agree with what you were saying about that idea of for parents thinking, almost feeling defeated by things, and then think, but what can I do? That's when I imagine that then, the kid steps up and decides what they're going to do, and they're kind of in charge of it if there's not that alpha kind of approach to being the one who's going to decide. Um,
Right.
and you said in the book too, which I love, tech is a volume knob. It turns up what's already in the room, which again speaks to then what is happening underlying for your kid. What is their connection like with their family and with their friends, and how good are their skills to manage things like frustration and other emotions? And um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If your kid, and this is so common, right? Especially, I work with a lot of kind of high achieving families. They're doing really well in the world. Not everybody I work with is that, but my practice started in Marin County, California, which is like a lot of tech founders and people who worked in San Francisco and at all the big companies, and their kids had everything, but they
Mm,
were still having the same problems as everybody has,
yeah.
and a lot of them don't let their kids use tech, by the way. Um,
Mm. I've
um,
heard that too. Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, but like one of the main issues I had, let's say concerns I had with the kids in Marin that I was seeing, is they had everything, but a lot of them had no ability to adapt to not getting what they wanted or to
Mm,
difficult emotions, because the parents were trying to provide for them in wonderful ways. A lot of the parents didn't have anything growing up. So they're like, I want to give my kid everything, right? That's a great intention. But these kids weren't getting no a lot. And they were
mm,
just kind of getting everything in a lot of cases. And they'd go off to uni and like they couldn't handle being told no by someone,
mm,
or by flunking out of a class because they didn't turn in something on time because they thought they could just do it whenever they wanted to, right?
mhm,
And so if your kid doesn't have the ability to be adaptive and resilient, for instance, which is not uncommon, it's a long journey to become adaptive and resilient, then giving them technology can sometimes prevent that process from developing. Because if I can just hit reset every time something goes wrong, if I can look up a hack every time I can't figure out a problem, or use AI
mhm,
every time I don't know how to do my homework, well, then I'm not going to develop that muscle. Does that make sense?
mm.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
But the other side of it, and again, I'm so sensitive to sounding like a dad who's just overly proud of his particular kid. I just don't always want to name a client's kid or something,
yeah,
But
yeah.
by the time my kid got technology in his hand, because that's another concern I hear, they don't we don't want them to fall behind,
Yes. Yep.
right? But by the time I put an iPad in my kid's hand when he was like 15, and he said, "Dad, is there an app?" 14. "Is there an app that would help me design a house?" And I said,
Right.
"Probably." And I look up an app on the App Store, and it's an architectural thing on how to build a house. And he and
Mhm,
I sat there together, and I'm telling you, I'm not telling you my kid is a tech genius or was then at all. I'm just telling
mm.
you he figured out how to do the app better than I knew how to do the app. And I grew up in Silicon Valley. Okay. I grew up when Apple and IBM and everything was taking off. I grew up in that,
Yeah,
right? My
yep.
kid knew how to use the app. And it was the same thing when I introduced him to the Logic music making program on the Apple. He just kind of went, "Oh, you do this and you do that." And again, it wasn't because he was a genius at technology. He had a couple friends that
Mm,
were like that. It was just he knew how to think, you
yeah.
know? He knew how to
So
think. And so
yeah,
he knew the progress of it, where I have all sorts of conflicting things in my head about how things work
yeah.
based on decades, right? So I know that's a long thing, but that's what I was trying to go for. And I'm glad you liked the metaphor of turning the volume up, because that was like the fifth
Mm,
iteration of how I was trying to explain that.
okay.
But yeah, it was like if there's lacking, technology is going to turn it up. If there's
Yeah,
skills and solid foundation there, technology can then turn those things up.
that's right, and they can use it. Yeah, but I like what your analogy to or the story is a great example of how you don't have to kids don't have to be a tech genius, but they also don't have to have had it from a young age to keep up. They will be fine,
No.
with whatever you decide as a parent.
One
Yeah,
of his friends, that I mean, because at a Waldorf school, a lot of times you have the same class from first to eighth grade, the same teacher and things. One of
right.
his good friends could take apart a device and put it back together with no training, no whatever. He would take apart, I think,
Mm,
a Kindle book, a Kindle thing. And
yeah,
right, one of his other friends, who's just one of the smartest kids you'll ever meet, his dad had been the head of IT for Google for the whole Eastern Hemisphere at the
right.
beginning in the early days, right? But now his dad was a chicken farmer. Okay.
Okay.
But this kid was super smart, but he wasn't doing technology. But man,
Yeah,
I, I is totally unrelated, but I took him to a fast food. Do you guys know what Chipotle is? Do you have that down there?
yeah,
Right?
yes. Oh, I
I
don't
took
think
him
we
to
have it, but we know it.
it was one of the only fast food places that I took my kid, because I thought in general it was decent food. And we would stop there at the way back from baseball games sometimes in San Francisco. This kid was quizzing the manager of the restaurant about the sources of their meat and where it came from and how it was. And he was asking really smart questions at like 12. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
goodness. But when you see kids like that, and I see kids like that all the time. I see kids, like, we
yeah.
were just in Jamaica with my fiance's extended family, and I was just going, these kids are awesome, you know?
Mm,
And that is there, but they need time to grow, and they need time for their brain to grow. And as adults, we get the dopamine hit and addiction of technology. And if everything else seems boring when we don't get that dopamine hit, sometimes just understand that kids are susceptible to that as well.
yeah, yeah, that's right. I think, one thing I like to I think where you talked about so I guess this in my mind, brings it right back to, the importance of the attachment in that relationship because we, started out there and then talked a little bit about sibling challenges and then the screens. Um, but I'm trying to I've written down, I think, exactly what you'd said, but I can't quite find it now. Oh, there it
Mm,
is.
okay.
Something yeah, thank you for hanging in there with me. Um,
Thank you for hanging in there with me.
no, building your family's tech culture, so that's a little bit about the creating a culture around it you talked about, and then, one thing I really liked was when you said to arrive before you ask. And that's such a great example, which I'll explain a bit so people understand, but of that connection first before you give a demand or, talk about a task. And so the example was um, wanting to wrap up your kids' screen time, and then you come close enough for them to you to see what they see and go say something like, "Wow, that's a lot of zombies," or if it was Minecraft, "Oh, that's such a cool house." And so you're commenting and connecting and arriving first before then you go, "Yeah, okay, so 2 minutes and then it's time to go off." Um, so, it's about how understanding how the relationship can be something that then you use in terms of managing things like screen time and
For
all of that other
sure.
stuff.
For sure. Because so many of the clashes are just because we're not honoring the rules of relationship, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
if I give you a screen, and if you have a screen, I need to understand that your attention is going to be pretty locked into that thing, and it's not going to be
Mm.
on me. And so I
Yeah.
need to kind of get in your space in a friendly way first. And sometimes parents will hear these things, and that just makes all the sense in the world to me, what you just said. I would hope so, because I guess I wrote it. And um, but and it makes sense to you. But sometimes parents will hear that and go, I don't have 2 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And it sounds like Todd and Leanne are saying, like, all day long we're gonna have to like spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to get my kid to do something. And that's one way of looking at it. And dear listener out there, I don't mean to make any assumptions about you.
Mm.
But I've just been doing this long enough to know that I usually will get that from somebody. And what I say, and I say it in all honesty, in a great depth of experience, you're spending more time because of the repercussions of not doing that. I
Mm,
guarantee you
mhm.
that not taking the time to get in their space and go, hey, that's a lot of zombies, or oh, wow, that house is amazing. And just creating that transition and that connection, I guarantee you're paying for that at dinner
Mm,
and before
mm,
bed
mhm.
and whatever. And I often just tell people, like I've made reference to a couple times here today, is think about it for yourself, guys. Think about how you feel when somebody just comes and tells you what to do. When somebody
Yep.
doesn't take a moment to respect that you're doing something else right now.
Yeah.
This happens with me and my fiance. We have a great relationship, and we have a great culture about connecting with each other. And sometimes I find myself, we both work at home, and I'll find
Mm.
myself walking into her door and just saying something and launching, and she's sitting there, like, she works in, with a tech company with the whole executive suite doing organizational stuff. She's sitting there with screens in front of her with all these different things that she's plotting out, and I'm just like, hey, what are you thinking for lunch? And you know and
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 I don't know if
we
your
don't
wife is
none of us
well,
appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead.
exactly. Sorry, fiance, I meant to say, but I can relate to that as the person being there doing the work, and I recognize that I will most well, yeah, I find it difficult not to react in a snappy way then.
Yeah,
And so when I can relate that to when I come and go, come on, you're on your screen, the kids will have a reaction because I know I do.
I do
So
too. I do too.
yeah,
If I'm doing something and you don't seem to have any awareness or kind of like respect for the fact that I might already be doing something, that doesn't feel good. And
yeah,
we all bristle at that. Now, as
yeah,
I get older and I try to get wiser and I try to be a kind person, and I hope that my reactions are not too harsh a
mm,
lot of the time. I hope that I can. One of my favorite quotes is in the book, Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is
mm,
our power to choose. That's a fundamental thing for me. So I hope that I've developed some space, but we're
mm,
all still human. We're all still human. It doesn't feel good, and our instinct is just such an important thing to understand. Most of the stuff you're getting from your kids that you don't like is not because they woke up that morning deciding they were going to like just not listen to you. It's because
yeah,
it's their instincts. And that
yeah,
same instinct you have, Leanne, when somebody just walks up to you and starts talking to you, or the same instinct that I have, is what your child is feeling. That their
yeah,
instinct is, you know, and then as parents, we get offended by that. And we're like, how dare you have a big reaction to me or defy me, child? Let me tell you what I can take away from you right now to make you regret that decision. It wasn't a
yeah,
decision. It wasn't a decision.
yeah,
It's an
yep,
instinct. That's human behavior. It's an instinct. I would like to
mm,
think I'm above it all, but if you accuse me of something, my first instinct is going to be, that's not what happened. And that's not exactly, and you're not understanding the whole context of it. That is going to be what I feel inside if you accuse me of something. That's an instinct, you know?
yep,
I
Yeah.
hate to
And
admit that I'm not perfect, but
oh, we all do. Um, but that's the reality, we're not, but I think what's different is that our space between that instinct and how we respond is a little bit bigger, and so even though
yeah,
it's not very big sometimes, we've got older brains that have had a lot more development, and so for a kid, I think it's really helpful to understand that they just, we have more
they don't have
capacity to control that than they do, for sure.
right. And the younger they are, they might literally not have the part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex
Yeah,
might not be
that
developed
does
yet.
that bit.
They might not be able to literally pay attention to two things at once. So if they're
Yes.
locked into that toy or they're locked into that game and you're coming up behind them and going, "Hey, Johnny, hey, Johnny, hey, Johnny," they
Yeah,
literally can't hear you. And you're getting
yeah,
more and
yep,
more mad and you're getting more and more frustrated and you're feeling more and more disrespected, but your child
mm,
doesn't have a mixer in their brain yet that allows them. But then there's the dopamine hijack too. They could be 15, and if they're very into the dopamine activity, it's the same kind of thing, right?
yeah,
So
yep,
use technology wisely however you use it, but just understand, don't be mad at your kid that their dopamine is hijacked if their dopamine is hijacked. And I hope that makes enough
yeah,
sense to people, that the stimulation of the social algorithms or the video games or the Facebook
yeah,
stuff is designed to trigger your dopamine centers in your brain, which raises your level of stimulation, which means things that aren't at that level aren't exciting, but it also
yep,
means you're more locked in your brain. And the
mhm,
technology companies do that because it makes you a better customer. It keeps you on the platform longer. That's literally one of their main metrics. How do we keep them on the platform longer? You keep them on the platform longer by getting their hijacking their brain, right?
yeah,
And again, it could sound like I'm up on a soapbox telling the evils of technology. I like those things too. I'm just telling you,
yeah,
let's be practical about what it does and what it is. And as parents, if our kids have these things in their hands, we need to be able to adapt to the repercussions of that and keep them in mind.
yeah, and I think that it makes it easier to the more we understand where our kids are coming from, we understand their perspective and,
Right.
have empathy for them, but I think also then, oh, it's gone. This light
I
bulb moment, and it's just gone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but the yeah, but the main practical thing about that what we're talking about, and maybe it'll come back, it always does for me eventually, is
Yeah.
is taking it personally is like the exact place where you go down the wrong road, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
could go down what you were just talking about, understanding, empathy, like seeing the big picture. That's what I try to do with everything I try to do. That's what I'm trying to do
Yeah.
by being on your podcast. It's what I try to do in the book. It's what I try to do in my coaching. But the second you take it personally or that it's
Yeah.
disrespect, I
Yeah.
guarantee you, I'm telling you with love and respect, audience, the second you go down that road, I've never seen a good result. I've never.
Mm,
I've
mhm.
never seen a good result. I've seen parents got their kids temporarily to comply. I've seen that. I haven't
Mm.
seen a long-lasting result from going down that road. So anything you can do to get that pause between the stimulus and the response, like having
Yeah.
empathy or having understanding, then you're already in a much better place.
Yeah. And that thought did come back to me, which was then you're just in a position to be able to prevent a lot of the challenges rather than dealing with them. And I think that's where you were talking about how it's worth putting in the 2 minutes because of what you'll
It's a
save.
good investment. And I
Mm.
also tell people that if you're putting a lot of conscious effort into creating that culture of attachment in your home, which means
Mm.
this is just what we do. We greet
Yeah.
each other, especially after transitions. We spend some time, quality depth of connection with, I want to make my kids feel special. I want to make them feel loved. I want to have some one-on-one time. If I'm helping my kids look forward to reunions when we're apart from each other, we call it bridging. Like, I help my kid who's having a hard time at school think about how great it is when they come home and we'll have 15 hugs and 16 kisses and we'll play a game. as I learn to, as I teach them, I matchmake them with good, caring people in our village, the teachers and the babysitters and the relatives, and help create good bonds between them. As I'm just kind of creating this culture, it really does take a lot of the weight off the exact moment, right? Over time,
Yeah.
I can collect my kid in 15 seconds that used to take me 5 minutes because it's just
Yeah.
in them now. It's just that
Yeah.
secure
It's a
base that John
practiced
Bowlby,
thing.
the secure base that John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth talked about, that you just develop over time this greater and greater sense of security, and then the work is less, you know?
Mm. hmm Gosh, and that's where we all want to get to as parents, where the
Yeah,
work is less.
that's the goal.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today. It
I
was
had a
a
great
really
time.
great.
Thanks for the great questions.
I'm glad. Yeah, it was
And
always a
thanks for
good.
reading the book.
Oh,
I'm
of
starting.
course.
It's as the time we're recording, it's coming out in 2 weeks, and I'm just getting all the reviews in from former clients and from people on the internet and from some parenting author friends of mine. Kim John Payne just sent me a really wonderful review. But you're the first person I've talked to on a podcast that had read it already. And I love that. It's like, oh, good, it's a real thing, and it's maybe there's something good about it. So
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, it's one I would recommend it for parents because of the things we've talked about. That it's just that it's not cookie cutter advice. It's not telling people what to do. It's helping understand what's actually really important and will make a difference, and then how to make your own choices within that. It's really easy to read and understand as well, which is not
oh,
always the
good.
case for
That's
those
that's what I was.
psychology-based
That's
books.
what I was trying for. We all want to impress people with our big words and our advanced concepts, but when I was learning from Dr. Neufeld, I already had like a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I had 10 years of experience in trainings. And
Mm,
when he would explain some of these concepts in a really complex way, which he does sometimes, or in a very deep way, in a very learned way, I
mm,
just sat there going, I need to sit with this for like hours and let it soak and let me,
yep.
these things are so big to us. They're so part of how we're wired as parents and as humans that
Mm,
I find that you can read a technical manual. I read several, as you did, to get our
mm,
degrees, but you come away with it. I came away from my master's degree in counseling psychology going, I don't know how to be a parent from that. You know,
mhm.
I,
Yep.
I know lots of great theories, but I don't know what I'm actually supposed to do now.
Yes.
Hopefully
Yep.
it's accessible.
Yeah, I think so. It translates it for us. Um, yeah, so I'll put a link to it so that people can find it if they want to, because I think it's always great to have good resources.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and thanks again for having a chat with me today.
Thanks for having me. I hope we get a chance to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.